Hmm?
Very good. All right.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. You
ready?
It's
going.
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh. So you'll be able to edit it, like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Allie.
Hey, I'm Evan.
And we're writers for theyoungfolks.com.
Back together again this week.
It is a lot less awkward because we don't have to just talk to ourselves for 10, 14 minutes.
But we had double the content, so it's okay.
Yeah, so it's good.
Yeah.
We're here this week to talk about...
Not a Chris Hemsworth movie. We both happened to do that by accident.
Although he's quite lovely. But instead we're here to talk about our personal favorite books turned to movies adaptations because it's all over the place right now. We have The Book Thief, the recent Ender's Game, the Divergent trailer, the
Hunger Games too.
And The Hobbit. So, part 2. So, you know, Hollywood's kind of all about turning books into movies lately, for better or for worse. So, why not talk about our own personal favorites?
Comic books will not be included in this because they're a different kind of comic, and I've had enough of talking about comics for a couple of weeks. So we'll do those another time.
Give or take.
Give or take.
Before the next new Captain America. But, so I guess my first on my list is Little Women.
Yeah, with Winona Ryder.
Yes, with the Winona Ryder. Yeah. Came out in 1994. Was directed by Gillian Armstrong. Gillian Anderson's X-Files. And...
oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, I loved the book when I was younger. It was one of the first books I ever read, along with, like, Heidi and the Secret Garden and all of Jules Verne stuff. You know, it was kind of my first introduction into kind of big girl literature. And it was so sweet. And, you know, it's all about family. It's all about, like, sister connections and, like, your love for your siblings. And it's just this amazing, sentimental book that's all about womanhood and, like, growing up and kind of overcoming pressures because of your gender. I don't know about that. And, you know, at first it didn't seem like it would make a good movie without it being over-sentimentalized. You know, it'd be too wishy-washy, too cheesy. But it's really not. It's very heartfelt still, but there's a very strong cast leading it with Winona Ryder and Christian Bale, Susan Sarandon, a younger Kristen Dunst. You know, it's a packed cast, and I'll always love Jo March is my female character. I know a lot of young girls love Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, but if I related to any of them, it was Jo March. So, I don't know. It's one of my favorites. It'll always be one of my favorites, and I watch it around Christmas every single year. So, yeah.
Sweet deal. My first one couldn't be any more different than that. So, when you get to your senior year of high school, and you want to be one of those kids that's like, I know about movies. I know about good movies. One of the ones that you watch is Fight Club, directed by David Fincher. An absolutely amazing, mind-bending kind of movie. And the book that it's based on came out in, I think it was 90-something or other, by Chuck Palahniuk.
I've never
I don't know how to pronounce
right.
his last name.
I never will.
But, you know, he's actually gay, so the fact that people associate this story with like this macho thing, that's actually kind of cool that you have a...
Is he?
Yeah, he is.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he is. No, it's I know. It's kind of cool. But the book, actually, I read it as soon as I had seen the movie because everyone told me it was just as good. It's good in its own right, but the movie basically retains the tone and the dialogue, and it's a lot less focused on, like, you know, your climax of, like, terroristic vandalism. It's more like about, like, the philosophy aspect and the community. And actually, I came across an interview from when the movie came out back in '99, an interview with the author on, like, CNN, and they were asking him about, like, the ending of the movie because they changed it to make the romance a lot more significant, as people do when they adapt things into movies, because that's what people like when they go to see a movie, I guess. It's Hollywoodized. But he said that he liked that romantic emphasis more. He felt like it transitioned perfectly fine, and he enjoyed it.
And it's like a dark romance, too. It's not like, you know, they fall in love and everything's perfect. The world crumbles around them. So, I mean, it's kind of a dark way to end it.
It's romantic in a way.
And out of all the films that, you know, senior year high school kids love to watch to be film lovers...
What's the other one?
It's not the worst thing in the world. Clockwork Orange, The Departed... Yeah, those are the ones that come off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But my second is the book that kids read when they want to seem a little deep. The Perks of Being a Wallflower, written and directed by Stephen Chbosky.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like the book.
I didn't like the book either.
I loved the movie, though.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
That's why I think it's one of the best adaptations, is because it fixed all the faults in the book and then made it even better. Like, when I read the book, I was, like, expecting to love it, because it, like, seemed right down, like, my vein of, like, interest. I don't know why. You know, this, like, this misfit group of kids, you know, they're totally, like, alternative from the regular students, and they want to go...
For the 90s, anyway. I don't know
yeah,
about
and
now.
they want to go and do, like, Rocky Horror and, like, have, like, cool kid parties. You know, it's just... I don't know, and dress differently. And, like, for me, I was like, oh, sweet. Like, I'll totally love this because I'm in my emo phase. But instead, I was like, I cannot stand any of them. Like, I didn't like the way it was written. I didn't like the lead kid's point of view. I didn't like anything that they, like, stood for. I was just like, it just seemed so try-hard. And when I was, like, 14 or 15 reading this and, like, sensing that, it was, like, the same feeling I got after reading Catcher in the Rye. I was like, I cannot stand this character.
Yeah, that's...
I don't get why they're, like, these icons to this group. But when you see the film, you get it. Because first, Ezra Miller and Emma Watson are just charming as hell.
Seriously.
As Sam and Patrick. You know, there's an easy charisma.
Those characters were just kind of like blank to me when I was reading the book,
yeah.
And then like they became real when I saw the movie. Like I really was like totally into it, and I felt for him.
And like more than anything, though, Logan Lerman as Charlie, right? He embodied the character so much better than the written word, you know, characterized him. He brought him to life in such a way that, like, by the end of the movie, I was, like, stunned. And, like, I don't know, it was this weird connection because you just feel for this kid and you, like, are cringing when he's embarrassing himself. You're happy when he's having a good moment, and you're heartbroken at the end when he has his breakdown, you know? He just did such a phenomenal job. And I don't know, the atmosphere was amazing, the music was amazing. I think the script literally, like, just hammered out any kind of issue that the book had, any inconsistencies, any kind of shallowness, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year. It was easily in my top 5.
It's one of those cases where the book ends up being made, like the person that made the book wants it to be a movie, and it's almost like it's a first draft. Because like The Third Man, that movie back in the day with Orson Welles, the book that movie was based on by the author. He wanted it to be a movie. That was his first draft. This is the same kind of thing. I think Steve Chbosky like totally nailed it.
Yeah,
he finally got
he
to make
figured
it a
out
movie.
his issues by the time he did the movie, for
and
sure.
In terms of Charlie, just like reading the book, I just didn't get like the spontaneous emotional outburst, but like in the movie with Logan Lerman's acting, it felt so natural, and it was great.
It was raging. But your second.
My second one. I have loved this movie since before I could walk. Jurassic Park. I took a crawl in the park. One of my favorite authors. He's not a particularly deep author, but I always liked it. It was just really fun science fiction. Michael Crichton published the book in 1990, and the movie just ended up happening not long after that. Steven Spielberg went to direct it in 1993, and the movie's visuals still hold up. It's one of my favorite examples to point to why computer-generated effects are complete, like, nothing compared to what practical effects can do. And they were going to do all practical effects at first with that movie, and then CG became a thing, and they just did a seamless blend of the two. The other example I go to is Iron Man. Back when Ray Winston used to do all those effects, but that time has passed. In terms of the book, though, I always liked how Michael Crichton, he always had very one-dimensional characters. Like Steven Spielberg was good at getting emotional resonance out of characters and an ensemble cast, but when you boil them down to these characters that you have in a novel, they're pretty empty. Jeff Goldblum's character, you remember the chaos theory scene where he's like at the water dripping on his hands, and he's sitting in his car talking to himself.
Oh, I haven't seen the movie.
He comes off as an a-hole in that one scene, and not much of the rest of the movie, but the character, he's completely monologuing and just making everyone feel kind of really stupid. I don't know, he just wasn't charming. There's something like uncharming about the characters, but the thing is about Michael Crichton's writing is that he really knows the science. He goes and studies the sciences of these things and then creates something really fascinating and something scary out of it. The whole point of Jurassic Park is to make it that it is an attraction. It's what's supposed to be an attraction, and it's absolutely terrifying one. So
I'll put it on my watch list.
Watch again list.
I haven't seen it. It's over. It's good.
It's okay.
I'll watch it soon.
It's okay.
It's okay because my third one is Mutually Loved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
So I was told I couldn't make these like all three of mine and not just talk about them all individually. So my third is a clump, and it's Lord of the Rings.
That's all right. I've done that with John Hughes before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Lord of the Rings because they're masterpieces,
Really?
and no one will ever do it better in terms of taking the source material, making it just as good, visualizing it, casting perfect actors who literally seemed to walk off the page as the characters, and expanding on the world. It is, oh my god, like...
Not even Peter Jackson himself could recreate that magic.
No, seriously. It was such a lightning strikes once type of situation, because you look at the Lord of the Rings, and you can rewatch them, right? They are so easily rewatchable.
It's the easiest 3 hours to pass by I've ever experienced.
Seriously,
every single time.
Expanded editions, and because when you read
J.R. Tolkien. Just to call him Tolkien.
When you read Tolkien's novels, right, there is so much that goes into this world. He knew his characters, backwards and forwards. He knew everything about them. And, even though there are so many, you are connected to them into a way that I don't think many authors have managed to recreate. Because you see, George R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones series, he has just as many characters. Obviously, has a lot of influences from Lord of the Rings. But you forget them more. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, you remember people from Frodo to Faramir to Aragorn to Gandalf. You remember all of them. To Smaug and the Hobbit. All of your characters. They are so well realized, and there's something so mystical and and I hate that I'm saying this after, but whimsical about
That's
it.
okay. Call it whimsical.
It's the first.
He was a man of whimsy.
It's the first kind of magical realism thing you see on screen when you're younger, for us, kind of, in terms of real life cinema and not animation.
And I think to kind of bring it to the book a little bit, I remember I did a research paper on this, so much of that passion that went into him writing those books was totally an allegory for how much he loved the countryside and the war.
I was gonna say,
think about Hobbit. Think about Hobbiton and kind of how that ends up at the end of Return of the King. That doesn't show up in those movies where Saruman shows up and completely makes it an industrialized wasteland. But the hobbits in the trenches and people Frodo carrying Sam. It's totally allegorical for World War I stuff.
And I guess my main point for it is that in the movies, you read the books over and over again, and there's always kind of the same thing. And I think with the movies, what helps you when you grow up watching them is that you pick up on different things each time. And my big thing is the first one, Fellowship of the Ring. When you're younger, you think Boromir is bad, right?
Yeah.
You just think he's evil. He's an evil character. We don't like him.
Well, that's because that's all it has time to show you, though.
Well, no. When you grow up, I think you see that there's more depth to it. And the same thing with Gollum in the Two Towers and Return of the King. You think straightforward evil character, and then you grow up and you watch it or you read it and you realize that there is a reason why he turned out this way.
It's a decay, and it's really just kind of sad.
I think that's why Lord of the Rings books and movies are so special, is because you grow with them, you grow into them, and I think that's rare. So
definitely,
Lord
of the Rings, absolutely. Just to kind of keep it the science fiction thing, because Divergent just came out with the trailer, and we had Ender's Game that just came out. But Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott back in 1982, based on the classic Philip K. Dick novella called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, published in 1962.
Oh.
And it was definitive, just this one piece of literature, just the definitive concept of if machines ever were to be potentially sentient, would they ever wonder where they come from? Would they follow the rules that we set for them? And it's the story structure. Yeah, well,
I haven't seen that movie, so I was just making a joke.
iRobot's based on its own thing that wasn't entire. But anyway, it basically it does set up that same exact laws of robotics, and it really like I think for science fiction literature. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep set up so much, even for Kate Dick's own work, because he did other stuff that was adapted to film, like Total Recall, A Scanner Darkly, and Minority Report. All of those are great.
I love that movie.
But Darkly. Yeah. But then Ridley Scott with Blade Runner, like stylistically, like that was always his most personal project, he would say, and that it totally shows in every cut of the movie, and just aesthetically, it everything now from science fiction, like you can totally see where it goes back to that, even maybe before. But
oh my word! Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't like piece together that movie.
Yeah, no, Blade Runner. It's amazing. Definitely watch it.
It's on my list too.
That's okay. You'll get to them. I haven't seen Little Women, so it's okay.
Oh, well, that's different. But, I'll see Blade Runner.
All right. So, that's it for this week. What are your favorite movies that were adapted from books? I know that Die Hard was based on a book. I can't remember the title of it, but there's a lot of stuff out there.
Okay, and, by the way, of course, Harry Potter.
Yeah, okay, of course, Harry Potter, but we talked about Harry Potter last time we were here.
It's too easy. So
way too easy. There's so many of them. There's almost way too many. There's like I could rattle them off of my head, but I'm not going to. But anyway, what are your favorites that are totally obvious that we didn't think to mention? Comment and subscribe. Like us on Facebook at TYF official, TYF_official. Or TYF official. All right, and that's it. We'll come back
next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.